Welcome back to the Brahmin Word, and we are over the next few weeks going to be kind of breaking down some of the great figures in the Bible that, when looked at more closely, um, have quite a few flaws, but God still uses them despite those flaws. So we're going to dive into those, not necessarily in a time order, not like in a chronology order, but we're going to dive into some of those. So first, let's start with the life of Samson, just a huge guy when it comes to physicality, but when it comes to his heart and his behavior, he has a lot of flaws. And yet we just kind of think of him as this big guy that brought down this huge building on his enemies. And that's true, right? But I think there's something behind that we can learn a lot from Samson, not just about what it means to be a follower of the Lord, but what it means to be somebody that could still be used by God even though you make mistakes. I think that's kind of the big thing when it comes to Samson. So, with that, let's start breaking his life down. So, this week or today, what we are going to do, we're going to look at chapter 13, verses 1 through 14, and then we're going to wrap up Judges chapter 13 and verses 15 through the end of the chapter in 25. We're going to do that Thursday. So today we are looking at Judges chapter 13, verses 1 through 14. All right, so let's get into it. Judges 13. And the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord gave them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. So let's take a pause there. So with the judges, you really start with Moses. Well, Moses gets the people of Israel to the promised land after 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, and then he dies. And then you have Joshua, who leads the Israelites into the promised land, and then he serves for a long time as the leader of the Israelites, and then he dies. And then you start seeing this spiral out of control once Joshua and his very firm foundation on the Lord and his teaching, once he leaves the scene of the leadership of Israel, everything starts to fall apart. And by the end of the book, you have this whole country begging or thinking on their mind that we need a king just like the other countries, even though the Lord should be our king. And more dangerous is that they basically do whatever is in their mind, they think is right. And that's where we get the end of the book of Judges. So Samson comes along during this cycle. The big theme of this book is cycle, where you have basically everything is good, but then the Israelites stray from the Lord, and then the Lord gets upset, and so then he sends a surrounding enemy to capture them, to take or to do battle with them. And then the Israelites get upset and they start crying out to the Lord out of fear. And then the Lord listens to them. And so he sends a judge, and the judge defeats the enemy. And then during the rest of the time of the judge, there's peace. But then once the judge dies, then the Israelites start the cycle all over again, by basically straying from the Lord again. So there's this constant cycle in this book, and Samson is not the first of the judges in this book either. So this is just another one of the cycles. The people of Israel have been doing evil in the sight of the Lord, mainly through idolatry, mainly through idolatry of serving other gods, basically refusing that the Lord is God, one of the big Ten Commandments, right? And so the Lord gives the Israelites into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years, and then we get to basically the birth of Samson after those 40 years. So then we get to verse 2 of chapter 13. Now there was a certain man of Zorah, of the tribe of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had no children. So pause there. Dan was one of the smaller tribes in Israel. Smaller, not just maybe numerically, but also just in its stance within the other 12 tribes of Israel. It was not as infamous as Judah, and it was not the firstborn either. So the Danites are kind of in between. You don't really expect a leader to come forth from the tribe of Dan, and yet one does. And not only that, but his mom is barren and has no children. This is very much a huge blow to any woman alive in this culture in the ancient Near East. Being barren and having no children gives you no future, and really it's harmful for the family as a whole to have no children. So this is a big problem, and we see this with later on after the time of Judges. At the end, we go to the prophet Samuel, which is the last judge, and who is the last judge, and he is born of a mother that is barren. And so the Lord works through these times of barrenness. And we see that with Rachel as well in the Old Testament, along with Sarah as well. And so we know the Lord can do it, but how is he going to do it? So, verse 3. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, Behold, you are barren and have not borne children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Therefore be careful and drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean, for behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. So, this huge declaration that, yes, you are barren, and I know you've been trying for a child, but guess what? The Lord has heard you, and so he is going to give you a child. However, there is a big condition, not necessarily condition, but there's this big rule when it comes to the birth of Samson. He is to be a Nazarite. And what does that mean? It goes back to the law. Nazarites are basically to show their devotion to the Lord by doing things like not shaving their head and by not drinking any strong drink or wine, or eating nothing unclean. They are supposed to be an example for the Israelites. This is what it looks like to be devoted to the Lord. You don't have to necessarily do these things, but you should strive this firmly to go after the Lord, to pursue the Lord. So that's kind of what that's getting at there. Verse 6. Then the woman came and told her husband, A man of God came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of the angel of God. Very awesome. I love that. Very awesome. I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. But he said to me, Behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. So then drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, O Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come again to us and teach us what we are to do with the child who will be born. At this point, I think Manoah is just like, whoa, that's sweet. I want to meet this guy, because he says he wants to be taught what they are to do with the child. Well, your wife just kind of told you what to do with the child, but he wants to meet this guy, I think. He wants to meet this heavenly being. So verse 9, And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman and as she sat in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. So the woman ran quickly and told her husband, Behold, the man who came to me the other day has appeared to me. And Manoah arose and went after his wife and came to the man and said to him, Are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. And Manoah said, Now when your words come true, what is to be the child's manner of life, and what is his mission? And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful. She may not eat of anything that comes from the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, or eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded, all that I commanded her, let her observe. So and that's where we're ending this part here. So we have the angel of the Lord show up, a messenger of the Lord show up to Manoah and his wife again. This time to Manoah and his wife, whereas the first time it was just Manoah's wife. And this angel of the Lord shows up. Are you this person that spoke to my wife? Yes, I am. Okay, well, now when your words come true. I think that's really important in verse 12, that can that clause there, when your words come true, is incredibly important, because he said, now if your words come true, a conditional, now if, but he says now when. He's anticipating this to happen. And I think that's a really positive thing for Manoah, to show this trust and this faith in this angel of the Lord. Yes, don't get me wrong, like, it would make total sense if Manoah was like, yeah, I bet this is definitely going to happen. But no, he definitely trusts in it. And so he wants to know what is going to happen with the child, what is to be his mission. And the angel basically just kind of reiterates what he said to Manoah's wife in the first part of this chapter here. So, but yeah, that is pretty much the beginning of the life of Samson, where everything seems to be going well. Not necessarily on the country of Israel side, but in Samson's life, everything seems to be going well. He's going to be born with a purpose. Now, he does have some conditions on that. He can't shave his head. He definitely needs to not be a big drinker. He needs to not eat anything unclean. And that's kind of setting up for what's going to happen to Samson's life and the issues that he's going to have. It's kind of setting up for that. But as of right now, everything's going great. But Manoah has some things on his mind that he wants to get off his chest, and that's where we're going to get at on Thursday when it comes to verses 15 through 25, or the rest of Judges chapter 13. So I will see you then as we walk through the life of Samson. However, of course, I'll see you tomorrow as well for the Brahmin Word. Thanks.